Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the guardian of the blue paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. For this week's show, are the right people in all the right places for the Flyers. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. Join Lance and Steel as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And as always, I'm your co-host, SteelFlyers, and welcome to another great episode of the Hockey Writers Ink, a podcast and show about, that's right, the Philadelphia Flyers. Lance, my friend, the host with the most, the writer extraordinaire, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer. How are you doing, editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com? What's up, buddy?
That was a mouthful for sure.
I'm telling you, man, it's like you're getting to be Apollo, man. You got to announce all these nicknames and titles and all this stuff.
I am doing great. I'm ready to get going on this show. Right, some exciting topics to go over tonight. So,
let me tell you something, ladies and gents. We got a smoking show on tap for you this evening. That's right. So belly on up to the screen or phone or desk or whatever you got going on. Belly on up to it for, wait for it, episode 123. Are the right people in all the right places for the Flyers? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in the show tonight, plus a bunch of other wonderful things and some other things that have happened with the Flyers just recently. So let's get right into the meat of it. What do you say, Lance?
I'm ready. Let's
You ready?
Go.
All right.
Yep.
So this morning we got to wake up to a nice little treat. The Philadelphia Flyers have finally found a president of hockey operations and a general manager for the team. It was officially announced that the interim tag has been removed from Daniel Briere. And your thoughts initially?
Well, like we've stated in previous episodes, that he wouldn't be my first pick for general manager. I think he's a little not qualified. I think he should have been put through the paces a little bit. Maybe
a little not qualified.
Yeah. Maybe given the assistant general manager or something like that for a couple of years before turning it over to him, if that's generally what you wanted to do in the first place. If you're Valerie Camillo. But here we are. Danny Briere is a very intelligent man, and he does know some hockey. But I would have picked somebody different with a little bit more experience and a little bit less tied to the Flyers. Yeah, we'll say that. And then, of course, we had some big news.
Right. How about that? Some really big news about what was announced as well, too, along with the Danny Briere thing. And go ahead, man.
Yeah, we had Keith Jones come out of left field and being named the president of Hockey Ops. His name for weeks now hadn't been talked about in that realm of people that they brought in. And I guess they didn't really, feel that any of those candidates were, worthy of being named that for the Flyers. And thank God Eddie Olachuk didn't get it. I can't stand him. So
on a sidebar of that, I think I might have had to turn in my Flyers card if he would have been named president of Hockey Ops. Woo!
So
but that's for another day.
Right. So speak of somebody with little to no experience in being president of hockey operations. Keith Jones, he came out of the press box and is moving over to a bigger role with the Flyers, more team building rather than just announcing what they're doing out on the ice. So my thoughts on that are, I like Jonesy. Always like talking to him. I think he is a very intelligent hockey mind. When I've gotten to speak to him at Flyers games and everything else up in the press box area. It's going to be interesting. I think he's an old school hockey mind. I think he's one that I would like in a sense where he's, expects players to do their job. I think he is going to hold them accountable. And I think he's wants people like Tortorella does as well to play the game the right way, the game that he was taught how to play.
All right.
In our time, So that's good in a sense. I want guys to be held accountable when they mess up. I want guys to be defensively responsible as well as, being held accountable if they're not out there doing those things. So I think Jones is going to do that. It's going to take some growing pains in both of these, in both Jones and Briere in these steps. But what I don't like most, and I'll turn it over to you, Steel, to get your opinion. Lack just the same old song and dance for me of bringing in more ex-Flyers to do the job. I am sick of it. I'm sick of it. We had it with Paul Holmgren. We had it with Bill Barber. We've had it with countless coaches, that came up through the system via the AHL or NHL levels.
Yeah.
We've had it, Bobby Clark, since their existence, since people hung up the skates since the 60s and 70s. The Flyers have been giving them jobs with little to no experience. The Shel Samuelsons, all the way down to player development, all the way up now through the ranks of hockey operations and head coaches and general managers, and I'm just sick of it. I want somebody new. I want some fresh blood in there. Tortorella wasn't a Flyer, and some other coaches in the past weren't Flyers hires, but I'm just sick of it, guys. I want somebody with a new outlook on things. I want somebody that doesn't have Flyers blood running through their veins. And, they preach that it would be different, and it doesn't seem to be too different when you're right back to the same old song and dance of hiring ex-Flyers to be building this team. Your thoughts?
All right. Well, very eloquently said. You made some very valid points. I would like to touch on some of those valid points that you made for sure. Number one, we have discussed in the past about the show, in the show's past, about not feeling that Daniel Briere was the general manager material. I do like the idea of him being the assistant general manager, and I thought that, they should have brought in our guy, Eric Terlusky, to be the general manager, or somebody of his ilk that has had some experience in dealing with similar situations to what Daniel Briere is going to be dealing with. No cap space, no draft picks, being a very bad team, and not a lot of hope for the future. And, what are you going to be able to do in order to try to get some of that hope? Because you got to find it, right? It's not standing there in front of you looking at you going, okay, here you go. Here's all these great players you can trade away to get all this stuff, because you don't got that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have anybody that really wants to come here and play. Heck, you can't even get draft picks to come here and play. You know what I'm saying? So
and there's no face of the franchise,
right?
To start with, at least
the face of the franchise right now is Tortorella.
At all.
Right? The face of the franchise right now is Tortorella, and I don't like that. I don't like a coach being the face of the franchise. I like players being the face of the franchise, because that changes. I mean, coaches change too, but I'd much rather seeing the guys that are hanging from the side of the building that we always talk about. You know what I mean? Those guys should be the face of the franchise, not the coach. Okay? So I'm very, very, very leery and hesitant about Daniel Briere being the general manager of this team in the situation that this team is in. as far as Keith Jones being named president of hockey operations, let me say this. I have never met the man. I have a lot of respect for what he's done on the ice. I have a lot of respect for what he's done off the ice in the broadcast booth. I have a very special relationship with Jim Jackson that affords me some knowledge of how Keith Jones came to be. And he's worked very hard and has done a lot to try to learn and be one of the best at what he does. Okay. As far as being the, on ice reporter and being able to do some analysis and being, Jim Jackson's broadcast partner and for most of the games and things of that nature. And I, for one, congratulate him on the position, on the promotion, whatever you want to call it. I can completely understand why he's doing what he's doing at the time in his life that he's doing it, because let's face it, Keith Jones is in his 50s-ish, something, you know what I mean? And when you're a broadcaster, what do? You travel every other night. You're in a different city every other night. I can completely understand why you would want to not have to do that all the time and be settled down and all that other stuff. And I'm sure it's probably a huge raise compared to what he was making broadcast money-wise, right?
Sure.
Okay, right. So, was he one of my favorite players when he played for the Flyers? You bet. Did he play a memorable role in the 5 overtime game that the Flyers eventually won with Keith Primo scoring that goal? Yeah. Has he been a great broadcast partner to Jim Jackson for a many number of years? Yep. Do I enjoy watching him on the TV? Yep. Do I think he'd be a good hockey operations? Nope. Does he have any experience? Nope. Okay, so it's like that whole cliche. Just because you're a comedian, right? And you get up there and you're doing your stand-up and they say, all right, well, cool. Then are you an actor? Can you act? Some of them can't. Do you know what I'm saying? And so, all right, cool. Well, sometimes you can be a writer, and sometimes being a writer doesn't necessarily make you a good broadcaster or a good podcaster. Or you can be a really good broadcaster, but that doesn't make you good at something else. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so That's my whole question mark about this whole situation. He has absolutely zero experience in hockey operations. If you asked him what the definition of hockey ops is, could he tell you? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, seriously, I want to know the answer to some of these questions, right?
Well, I'm sure he could. He's been around the team a long time. He knows, generally what that person does. But
I understand. But see, now they've changed it around now.
Level, yeah.
Right. But see, now the Flyers have changed it around now so that this president of hockey operations, so maybe he is going to be the right guy for the job, because there is no experience for a job that's basically just going to be a guy that's going to go around tickling shaking hands and kissing babies. I mean, do you really? I mean, I think that's kind of a waste then of a Keith Jones's mind, because he has a good hockey mind. He is old school. He does have a good hockey mind. He has good thoughts and things about, players and stuff like that. I'm not worried about a hockey ops guy holding players accountable. I'm worried about a hockey ops guy making general managers, assistant general managers, and coaches and assistant coaches accountable. Okay, hockey ops. No, why are you worried about what the players are doing? That's what the coach is supposed to do. That's what the general manager is supposed to do. As hockey ops, you're the one above that. You are the one that oversees all these other people. At least that's what I always felt it to be. And they're doing it all exactly backwards, right? The hockey ops guy is supposed to hire the general manager, and then he's supposed to hire the coach. Well, they already had the coach, and then they kind of gifted Danny Briere, the general manager, and then now they hired Keith Jones. I am very nervous about this coming draft, about this coming off season, about what the future holds for this team. I have seen a team that is in such disarray, and I understand that it needs new life and new blood, but not Flyers blood. Okay? This nepotism needs to how soon? I mean, is maybe in my lifetime, do you think? Maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. How many times have I written about this team's nepotism and old habits dying hard of hiring ex-Flyers and how has that worked out for us in the past?
Do we have a Stanley
hasn't
Cup?
won us any cups not since Bobby Clark got off the ice.
How many years ago was that?
A good stinking amount.
Keep doing what you're doing, guys, because that's working.
Yeah, so it's frustrating for me. I don't know, because I think the Flyers are in a position that they need to hit on everything this offseason. They need to hit in the draft with every single pick. They need to knock it out of the park, because they've given away second round picks and they don't have that, and there's so many things, free agency. You need to hit like Carolina does, like Tampa Bay does, like so many good teams that are playoff contenders are able to do. They don't spend their time going after the untouchables that one or two and everybody else in the whole league is going after, trying to acquire the one or two star players. They go after key role players that are fitting a role that they need filled in their team. And while everybody's chasing those big name guys, which we did last offseason, they go out and get 3, 4, 5 guys to fill spots that they deem they need, or that they could not see paying the person that was there last season more money to do that job, when they can go out and get the same player for similar money the next season and just replace them. And, like we said, I don't see Danny Briere having the experience. He's saying all the right things and doing all the right things in interviews, saying, yeah, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to trade, some of our star players to subtract some salary so we can bring in some people and re-sign some people. But talk is talk. Talk is cheap. So I want to see action.
Talk is a new shade of orange.
Yeah, imagine that, what they came out with, right?
Right. That's pretty good segue, right? Talk is a new shade of orange statement that came out from the Flyers. Okay, so I understand, I get you, but actions speak louder than words. All you've given me is words over the last 5 years. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing that. Oh, we're trying this. Oh, we're trying that. Well, you need to go back to formula, because whatever you were trying ain't working. Okay, so and it's very disheartening, and it almost feels like a slap in the face that the team would come out and make some of these statements like this. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like it's the obvious. Don't tell me this kind of stuff. Show me that you're trying to trade some of these ugly contracts. Show me that you're trying to get draft picks. Hey, you know how you could show me how you could get some draft picks? By maybe trading back. Maybe giving up the 7th overall pick for, say, maybe the 8th or the 9th overall pick, because you're not going to get Bedard and you're not going to get Fantilli, right? Those are the 2 generational type players that's going to be going in the draft, so you're not going to get those 2. So You need to hit on a player that's going to contribute to this team in 2 years. Boom. There's no excuse. So if you have to trade back, which I have no problems doing, trade back to say maybe get Arizona's pick at number 8 to try to maybe get a second round pick, and maybe we can bottle up and throw somebody in there and get as far part of a trade or something to try to get a second round pick, right? Because I'm here to tell you, anywhere in the top 10 of this draft is a home run, as far as I'm concerned. As long as you stay within the top 10 of this draft, you're going to get a player that's going to start for your team.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Arizona's got the 6th pick, though. They'd be trading back even all the way to 10, like you said.
6? No, they
with
pick
St.
they
Louis
pick
or something
8th.
like that.
Don't they pick 8th?
No.
They pick after the Flyers. Flyers got 7th.
I don't think so. I thought they got 6th.
Or maybe they do have 6th. Okay.
Yeah. Washington, I think, has 7th.
7th. Okay. All right.
But
So
anyway,
trade back,
yeah,
or you know,
if the option's there, if you can acquire a second round pick, I think you should do it. And I think, we talked before on some players in the second round. There's some great players in the second round that could be, making this team. And we just interviewed one of them that I think is going to go in the second round, and that show is going to be out on Prospect Watch soon.
Yes.
So look for that. But
I
agree.
That.
I was very happy we got that guest. But I think there anywhere inside the top 10 is a good pick. So those type of things is what Danny's going to have to be able to pull off, and I just don't see him being able to. Especially since he was under the tutelage of Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair, who
is still there.
Screwed up so many drafts.
But he's still
in their pastime. So, yeah,
he's
Brent
still
Flair.
there.
Yeah, I don't know. Danny likes him. I don't know why.
All right, so now
he's
that
drafted one superstar talent ever, and the guy from Minnesota. Yeah.
So now that we know that the Flyers are getting the 7th overall pick, would you trade down to try to get a second, or would you try to take the best available player at number 7?
I think there's any number of situations you could do, and if at all cost. I think you just pick 7th and you stay there, but you could potentially try to move up. The Flyers will have 2 first-round picks next year, being that the one they got from Florida. So
True.
They could try to trade up if they really, really like somebody and they have a feeling that they're gonna go that much sooner. Maybe a team that's still kind of in a rebuild. Obviously, I don't think you're going to get Chicago or the Ducks to move at all. They're going to take those 2 top guys and be happy. But I do think that 3 to 6, I really knock out of the park, like maybe one of them and Will Smith, who I think is going to go that high as a center. But beyond that, I think you could possibly do that. So you could possibly move up. Like you said, you could possibly move back down to stay inside the top 10. But if somebody comes calling and wants to offer you, say an 8th or 9th or 10th pick and maybe give you a second round pick, why not? Why not do that?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Or even another 3rd or something like that, and maybe a 5th or something like that. Who knows? You're going to be calling around. You should be anyway calling around to try to wheel and deal, like you said, and like Danny said as well, he's going to try to subtract. So if you can do that before the draft, or make a deal once you get down to the draft and talk to some people, GMs along that line and try to trade away a Provorov, a Kevin Hayes, a Carter Hart, or any number of players, a Travis Konechny even. I wouldn't like to see that, but even a Travis Konechny, if that could garner you another first-round pick to restart this all over again and really get the players that you deem, that are going to help this franchise. Anything is possible at this point. But again, it goes back to, do they have the wherewithal to be able to pull that off? And that's what we're going to have to wait and see. So we're putting a lot of faith in two guys that don't have any experience in walking into this walking into this realm of some experienced guys, in these war rooms and stuff like that, and on the floor of what will be Nashville, and go up against some of these GMs that have 15 years of experience in doing this. And I don't know how that's going to turn out.
I mean, the whole fact of the matter is that there is that lack of experience there. But if you are able to say, stay where you are, if the Flyers stay at 7, do you think that Chris Dahl will be available?
I do think.
Do you think? All right. Hold on.
One of our favorite players,
right? Because do you think Ryan Leonard will be available?
I do think he'll be available.
What about Will Smith?
Possibly not. I think he winning MVP recently at Worlds. I think he may go inside the top 5 now.
All right. What about Gabe Perreault?
I think he's definitely going to be there. I think he'll be there in the later teens and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. So really the only major names that the Flyers, as far as we're concerned with, or even maybe Zach Benson. Zach Benson might maybe at 7.
Zach Benson, he could be there potentially. Zach Benson is a little. I'm scared of Zach Benson because he plays on a deep team.
I know
the Winnipeg Ice have a ton of draft picks playing on that team.
I know.
So his numbers to me are a little inflated. Oliver Moore is another guy who's Team USA. I'm just not too overly impressed with him to be at this level of conversation. I think he'd be more suited later in the first round, but I think as good as Team USA really was able to do in these tournaments, he's got really inflated. I wouldn't mind seeing a little Slovakian European flavor coming in there with Dvorsky. Well. He's got good size.
Dude, he played so well at the tournament at Worlds. Oh my gosh, man. You could clearly see he was head and shoulders above everybody else. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Out there on the ice. And he's one of the ones that we like.
That's definitely a player that has been playing at his country's top level for some time, and he's been playing against men and putting up points in that sense. And I think that time that you're looking, that you just talked about, within a year or two, he definitely could be playing in the NHL.
I'm with you.
He's one of those guys that may only take a year, maybe not. If he wants to come over, because how bad the team is and how desperate the team is for a center, or potentially he plays center and wing.
Right.
All the
guys we all talked about. All the guys we talked about.
Is that Eddie Sale?
He's another one too.
Is a Czech player. Yeah, his numbers don't jump off the page to you because he's playing in the top Czech league against men and buried in the lineup, being that he is so young. But he's another guy that could really impress. That I think is underrated in that sense.
Any one of these players would be fine for the Flyers to pick. I would think. I mean, we know we're not going to get the top two. We understand that. But Kristoff, he's available. Yes. We don't think Will Smith would be available, but Leonard or a whole bunch of other ones that we wouldn't have a problem. Colby Barlow wouldn't be a bad one either, too. You know what I mean? But excuse me, those are just a bunch of names that we could say that we wouldn't mind if the Flyers were to pick at, say, the 7th overall pick, right? Now, what would it look like? What would have to? So the Flyers, in order for the Flyers to garner another first-round pick, is there anybody on the team make a trade in order to get that?
I think Provorov. I really think
you
Provorov,
think
is your
Provorov
best
would garner
answer.
a first-round pick?
I do.
Really?
I think he is a number 2 overall defenseman for a good playoff team. He's signed for 3 years, I think, at a reasonable
friendly
price.
deal, yeah.
It's a pretty good price considering what some defensemen are going for now. And again, I think a team like LA would be hard pressed. Some other ones, I don't even think LA really has. They traded their first round pick anyway, but to try to get some stuff. But there's some teams out there that essentially could, maybe not this year, but maybe another one next season. In that sense, this year is a great draft if they could, but I think a lot of teams know that, and I don't think they're going to be up for trading away a first round pick this season, but potentially next year we could have 3. We're in a rebuilding years. We're in a rebuild right now, so if we're going to tear it all down, then tear it all down. Let's do it. Let's tear it apart. Let's rebuild. If you could, we already have 2 first-round picks next year. If we could potentially garner another for next year, I would be okay with it. And if you traded Provorov, that means Cam York could jump up and play his natural side and play top line minutes like he should be getting if you drafted him in the first round, and what he should be doing at this point.
And then maybe we'll see Ronnie Attard or Zumula or, they pick somebody. Yeah, what?
Right. It opens the door for some prospects to come up. And I'm really tired of I think I just saw today that they re-signed Garrett Wilson or whatever for the Phantoms. It's a guy that's been with that team forever, and great veteran AHL player, but again, taking up space where a prospect could have been signed and brought over that's already in the system, and building. I get that they need veterans down there too, but I want guys that are gonna progress and
constantly re-signing career AHL guys. I mean, I understand you need to have a couple veterans on the team, but you don't need to have guys that have been in the AHL for the last 10 years. Really, you don't. I mean, seriously, that's not what the AHL is for. Okay, the AHL is not for you to make a career of down there. I mean, if some guys, that's all they can do, and they do make a career out of that, okay, cool. Do you know what I'm saying? At least they're playing hockey. At least they're getting paid, and you know what I mean? And all right, cool. But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
He's 32 years old. He's 32 years old. Come on.
Exactly. So what are you doing at 32 still playing at the AHL level? You know what I mean? Okay, maybe the NHL you're not going to make, but hey, man, if he's still trying it and still getting it and still able to play in the AHL, all right, good on him. You know what I mean? I'm always going to root for the player if he's still able to play. I do agree, though, it's taken away a spot for somebody younger, but maybe right now.
It's just questionable. It's the same old stuff. That's what I'm talking about. The main objective of that comment was that it's the same old song and dance. Danny Briere said he's going to come in, he's going to shake things up, he's going to do some different stuff, and you can't do a whole lot because the season's still going on. But at the same time, you re-signed Zumula, great. Think that needed to happen, but he's
But
a
that was
restricted free
low-hanging
agent.
fruit.
So
Low-hanging
yeah,
fruit.
so
Easy pickings.
that was that was not a tough decision there. And then you bring back a 32-year-old AHL player. Not impressed. Not impressed so far. So this draft, like you said, is going to be a big speaking point. That's why I don't think they could, but I don't think they necessarily trade back. I think they were just going to take that if they can't move up, like they say they possibly want to, then they're just going to pick that number 7, and then they're going to
All
take the
right, well,
best
so let's talk
available
about that
player,
for a minute.
hopefully.
Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. So if they do move up, right? So that means that there's going to have to be the first round draft pick from 2024 is going to be involved, and or a Provorov, and or a Carter Hart, and or I mean that's the kind of level we're talking about here, right?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know what a team ahead of them is going to want. Like I said, I don't think that Chicago or the Ducks are going to trade their first 2 picks, because those guys are solid NHL players starting next year.
Oh yeah.
If their teams want them to, so they're not going to trade them necessarily. I don't think Leo Carlson's. I think he's good. I think he's got great size, NHL size, and all that. But I don't think he's going to start next year for you. Mishkov, like the whole thing.
That's at least 3 years
Russia,
away.
Yeah, but Russia, yeah, he's signed for one. His dad just unexpectedly died, and it's rumored to be coming out that the nation of Russia had something to do with it, because they were mad that he was potentially going to leave. His son was potentially going to leave to go to the NHL. That's all rumors, but after what they did to Ivan Fedotov, you can't put anything past them right now. So in my mind, I think that's an unsafe draft pick, and one that you will not see for 2 or 3 years. So that's not good. And then, like I said, I think Will Smith would be great, but at number 5, if we could get up to that, or 6, is it that much more of a stretch to, as good a player above and beyond at 7? I don't think so. I think you could get a number of good players at 7. So it's all relative to what Danny Briere is going to be able to pull off, or what he sees for the Flyers' future or past. If you look I'm sorry, Briere and same old song and dance. Bring in ex-players that with no experience to do the job.
I mean, I'm happy for these guys, and it's great that they're able to continue their careers after hockey and all that stuff, and that's all fine and great. And look, I have a lot of respect for Jones in the broadcast booth, from where he's come from to where he's at now, where he's the basically the national guy that's on all the hockey games now, you know what I mean? And it was kind of odd, because he's been strangely absent in the last week or so of some of the hockey games, because I've been watching playoff hockey, you know what I mean, and he hasn't been on. You know what I mean? They've been putting the other guy on, and they've been rotating other people around. You know what I'm saying? So he hasn't been on the games on TNT or whatever anymore this last week or so. So I congratulations on those guys getting the positions, but I just don't feel they're qualified. And I'm more of show me instead of talk to me. You've been talking to me now for 5 years. You're not showing me anything. All you did so far was fire a coach that couldn't really get the team to do what they wanted him to do, and you fired a general manager who all he basically did was sit on his hands for 5 years and write bad deals and cost this team gobs of money and loads
trades,
and loads of talent, and walked out of this door without anything coming back. You know what I mean? And so This team is just going to have to face the facts. And it's just going to have to be this fact. You're going to stink for a couple years.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing, too. You see our cross-state rivals, the Pittsburgh Penguins, in a similar boat right now. They're looking for a president of hockey ops and a general manager as well. And I got to tell you, I like the names that I've been hearing from them. Yeah, a lot better. A lot better. They are looking at qualified candidates. And I mean, they took Ron Hextall from us, and that didn't go so well either after we got rid of them. But the names I'm hearing are names that we talked about in the Eric Tolskis and stuff like that for general manager and everything else. It seems like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years down the road, they're going to be in a better spot than we are.
Well, they also have a lot more assets than what the Flyers do. I mean, they also have Sidney Crosby, they have Letang, they've got Malkin, they've got, you know what I mean? They've got side of the building banner hanging names on the team that will obviously be trade assets for them and or whatever the case is, or however you want to call it.
Yeah, but all those guys are like 35 years old.
I know.
So
their time's coming to the end soon.
Yep. Sidney Crosby is a name that is synonymous with hockey in general, and people that don't even know the sport know him. And but the fact of the matter is, he has done great while he's been there, but he has played in like almost 1,200 games. So
is he retired?
His time is coming to an end. I can't wait for that day. I tell you, as a Flyer fan, I can't wait for him to be retired. So
the day that he retires is the day that Pittsburgh Penguins no longer are relevant. Just the facts. Until he retires, or until he's no longer playing for Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's always going to be relevant because he's still that good. And dang it if I can't stand him for it, because I wouldn't have him on my team. So.
Well, he's won every single award you can win, and the team has really pushed, and that's a different state that they will be with nothing after he leaves, because they've been trying every single year to trade away pieces, to acquire pieces, to trade away draft picks to be able to be legit and to be cup contenders every single year. And it's worked out for him 3 years out of his reign. So, they have something to hang their hat on and have a lot more Stanley Cups than the Flyers right now. But that is a sense because they're essentially lucked out, in the draft lottery, which the Flyers don't seem to have that same luck. And even when they do, they get James Van Riemsdyk's and they get Nolan Patrick. So, right. So
or they get first round draft picks that they can't even sign or bring to the team.
Yeah.
What's with that? You know what I mean?
I think I know what's with that. If you look at Cutter Gauthier, who you're talking about, who the Flyers selected last year in the top 5. You look at the players coming next year to Boston College where he plays, and a lot of them are in the first and second round of this upcoming draft. You see Will Smith is going there. It's all basically Team USA coming there. Gabe Perreault, Ryan Leonard. Buddy. You really see a depth, and one of their defensemen as well from Team USA is coming there as well. So, within the top 60 some picks, you're going to have 4 or 5 players going to Boston College next year to play with Cutter Gauthier. So that team is going to be immediately like Minnesota was last year, and stacked with players that have been drafted already, and are destined to be, in the Frozen Four next year with that insane amount of talent coming to town.
That would be kind of interesting if that's how that turns around. if suddenly all four of those players get on the team, and then suddenly now they're in the Frozen Four. They were in the semis.
Sure.
Right. So, I mean, it's not like they were that far away. They were in the semis. So, I mean, all right. Well, Lance, my friend, you got any stuff in the works? Anything coming up here? Anything good and juicy for us?
I do. I'm going to be putting together my mock draft sooner rather than later. And starting to gather some names together. And of course, I believe I will have a couple of players that maybe we interviewed this season on that. So, who knows? We'll see. Or at least guys that I wrote about as
at
well.
Least.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Awesome, man. That sounds great. I can't wait to see that, dude. And also be looking forward to another special Prospect Watch show that we're going to be doing with John from Off the Wall Hockey, where we're going to be talking about a lot of these prospects. And now that we know what the draft lottery results are, and we know where teams are going to be, we're going to get together with John, and we're just going to talk about prospects and where we think all these prospects are going to wind up, and who's going to pick who, and who's going to go where, and things of that nature. And we'll break down each of these prospects, at least give us our top 5 on each of the positions as well with John. So be looking forward to that. And Lance, thanks very much for everything, man. Why don't you tell the folks where we can find you and where we can get you?
Sure, of course. You can catch all my articles and both of our shows at SteelFlyers.com. You can catch everything we do on Twitter as well. We have a Hockey Writers Ink page, and you should be checking out Prospect Watch as well. If you watch this podcast, you should be watching Prospect Watch as well, especially this time of year as we are pulling in some big name players and prospects that are due to be drafted in even this first or second round this year. So
for sure, man.
Great show. We had quite a few undrafted players as well that we interviewed get signed this year as well. So
it seems like
we know what we're talking.
It seems like we've had a pretty good run here. Like either the player that we've interviewed has either been signed or drafted so far, right? Or has moved up or has garnered, you know what I mean? So I think that shows that we know what we're talking about when it comes to these prospects and comes to these kids. We spend a lot of time doing the research and everything, just like we spend a lot of time doing the research and everything that we do for the Flyers. You know what I mean? So that's what the Hockey Writers Ink is all about. Thank you everybody for watching and for checking us out, man. Lance, where can we get you on Twitter?
Yeah, it's Lance Green and the number's 39.
For sure. You can get me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. You can check out all the great stuff at SteelFlyers.com, where you can check out Lance's articles and all the great shows from Hockey Writers Ink to Prospect Watch to the Steel Flyers podcast as well. And, man, I'll tell you what, folks, this one was a really good show. Really excited about this. A lot of moving and shaking going on here with the Philadelphia Flyers. And like it or not, this is what's going on. It's the new shade of orange. So we'll catch you guys all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink. We'll catch you next time.